I want you to think about the last time you woke up feeling genuinely rested, not just awake, rested, clear, like your body had actually done something useful overnight. For a lot of my patients, people I've been treating for years, that feeling is a distant memory. Heavy legs, a head that won't clear, a thirst that wasn't there at bedtime. They've stopped questioning it, filed it under, "This is just how things are now." I'm Dr. Michael Kent, an endocrinologist with 30 years of clinical experience, and I can tell you clearly what most of my patients have accepted as aging is not aging at all. It is what happens to blood sugar when the night goes wrong. When my patients come in with high fasting glucose, the first thing most doctors look at is what they ate the day before. What I look at is what their body did between 10 at night and 6 in the morning. Because in most cases, that 8-hour window is where the real problem lives. Your body is supposed to quietly regulate, clear, and reset your blood sugar while you sleep. When that process breaks down, you feel it every single morning, even if nobody ever connected those dots for you. Today, I'm going to connect those dots, and then I'm going to walk you through 8 drinks, ranked from least to most effective, that can genuinely support what your body's trying to do overnight. Not supplements, not prescriptions. Drinks you can make in your own kitchen tonight. But first, let me show you exactly what's happening inside you while you sleep. Because if you don't understand the mechanism, the solution won't stick. A few years ago, I had a patient I'll call Gerald, 68 years old, retired electrician from Ohio. Gerald was meticulous. He ate well, barely touched sugar, walked every evening after dinner. His wife kept a food diary for him because he wanted to do everything right. And yet, every single morning, his fasting glucose came back elevated, not dangerously, but consistently above where we wanted it. He was frustrated. I completely understood why. Gerald thought blood sugar was a daytime problem, something you managed with what you ate and how much you moved. Most people do. That's how it's usually explained. But here's what most people don't know. Blood sugar is a 24-hour system, and the nighttime half of that system is the half that almost nobody talks about. Your liver is the overnight manager of your blood sugar. When it's working correctly, you wake up stable and clear. When it isn't, the consequences run all night while you sleep right through them. So what goes wrong, and why does it go wrong specifically in people over 60 with diabetes or pre-diabetes? The first problem is something I call hepatic glucose overproduction. In plain language, your liver stops being precise. Instead of releasing small, controlled amounts of glucose overnight, it releases too much. It floods your bloodstream with sugar that has nowhere to go. This is one of the primary drivers of elevated fasting glucose in my patients, not what you ate for dinner, what your liver did at 2 in the morning. The second problem compounds the first. As insulin resistance deepens over years, often without any obvious symptoms, the cells that are supposed to accept and store that glucose become less responsive. So the sugar your liver released just sits in your bloodstream for hours. And then there's the third problem, cortisol. Most people know cortisol as a stress hormone. What most people don't know is that when cortisol rises too early in the night, it signals your liver to release even more glucose. That is 3 separate problems running simultaneously while you sleep. And you're unconscious for all of it. Your liver releasing too much, your cells not accepting it properly, and cortisol pushing the whole process even harder. 3 systems, all working against you, all happening in the dark. Gerald's problem wasn't his dinner, it was his liver, his cortisol rhythm, and 30 years of gradual insulin resistance doing damage quietly every single night. Now here's something that most people in my field don't spend enough time explaining, and it matters more than almost anything else in this conversation. Your blood sugar and your sleep quality are not 2 separate problems. They're the same problem, running in a loop. When blood sugar runs high overnight, your body senses it and partially wakes you. Not fully, you may not even remember it, but your sleep fractures. You lose deep, slow-wave sleep, the stage where real restoration happens. That deep sleep stage is where your body repairs blood vessels, resets hormones, and restores insulin sensitivity for the next day. So poor overnight blood sugar leads to poor sleep, and poor sleep makes your cells even less responsive to insulin, which leads to higher blood sugar the following night, which fractures sleep again. I've watched this cycle run in patients for years before anyone identified it. They'd come in exhausted, numbers slowly climbing, energy declining, and they'd attribute it to age. But age wasn't doing it, the cycle was. Now, the 8 drinks. I've ranked these from least to most effective, and I want to be clear about what that means. Least effective doesn't mean useless. It means the mechanism is narrower, the impact more modest, or it takes longer to build. Each one has real science behind it, but they're not equal. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. I'm also going to tell you where most people go wrong with each one, because the right drink done wrong can be completely ineffective. Number 8, spearmint and lemon balm tea. Most blood sugar content recommends green tea here, and green tea does have merit, but it contains caffeine, and for many people over 60, even 1 cup in the evening disrupts sleep. That's the last thing we want. Spearmint reduces cortisol activity through its effect on the adrenal system. Lemon balm directly calms nervous system activity, and it's been specifically studied for its ability to reduce nighttime cortisol spikes. When cortisol quiets down, your liver gets a calmer signal. Less unnecessary glucose gets released overnight. 1 cup, hot, 30 minutes before bed, no sweetener of any kind. Number 7, warm water with apple cider vinegar. The acetic acid in ACV genuinely slows how fast sugar from a meal enters your bloodstream. As a mealtime strategy, it works. The research on this is reasonably solid, but as a bedtime drink, the benefit is much narrower. Your last meal digested hours ago. There is some modest evidence it may slightly influence how your liver handles glucose overnight, but the effect is small and inconsistent. 1 teaspoon in a full glass of warm water, never undiluted. ACV is acidic enough to damage your throat and tooth enamel over time. It belongs on this list. It just doesn't deserve the top billing it usually gets. Number 6, cinnamon milk. Cinnamon contains molecules that activate insulin receptors on the surface of your cells, making those receptors more willing to respond when insulin arrives. Over time, with consistent use, your cells become modestly more responsive. Sugar moves out of your bloodstream more efficiently. Combined with warm milk or oat milk, whatever you prefer, the warmth itself supports circulation and aids insulin delivery. Simple, pleasant, and genuinely useful. But before you reach for the supermarket cinnamon, I need to stop you. The cinnamon in most American grocery stores is cassia cinnamon. Cassia contains a compound called coumarin, used occasionally, not a concern. But if you're drinking cinnamon milk every single night as a long-term habit, coumarin accumulates, and it can stress your liver, the exact organ we're trying to support. Ceylon cinnamon has all the same beneficial compounds with a fraction of the coumarin. It's available online and in most health food stores. Half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in warm milk, 30 minutes before bed. That's the version that actually works. Number 5, tart cherry and ginger water. This one surprises my patients most. Tart cherries contain compounds called anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their deep red color. Anthocyanins reduce inflammation specifically in blood vessel walls. And here's why that matters for blood sugar. Inflamed vessel walls impair the movement of glucose across them. When you reduce that inflammation, insulin does its job more effectively. The whole system runs more smoothly. Tart cherries are also one of the very few natural food sources of melatonin. Better sleep directly improves insulin sensitivity the following day. You're addressing the cycle, not just the symptom. Adding ginger brings a third mechanism. Ginger compounds dilate blood vessels and improve circulation, particularly to the peripheral tissues, the hands, the feet, the legs. For patients with poor peripheral circulation, which is very common in long-term diabetes, this is felt quickly and concretely. Now, the critical warning. Most tart cherry drinks in grocery stores are heavily sweetened. Some contain as much sugar as a soft drink. Drinking sugared tart cherry juice before bed to lower blood sugar is exactly backwards. What you want is pure, unsweetened tart cherry concentrate, 1 tablespoon in water with fresh ginger steeped in. That's the version that works. We're now in the top 4, and I want to be direct with you about what changes here. The first 4 drinks work on 1 or 2 parts of the overnight system. They're genuinely useful. What comes next is different. The top 4 address the system more directly. The mechanisms are stronger. The research behind them is more substantial. The results my patients report are more consistent. If you're going to make one change after watching this video, make it one of these 4. Number 4, fenugreek and cinnamon water. Fenugreek is almost entirely absent from mainstream American conversations about blood sugar, and I find that remarkable given how consistently the research supports it. Fenugreek seeds contain a very specific type of soluble fiber. It forms a gel in your digestive tract, and that gel physically slows the absorption of glucose, creating a slower, flatter curve rather than a sharp spike into your bloodstream. The effect begins with your evening meal and carries into the early hours of the night. But fenugreek goes further than fiber. It contains compounds called furanostenoic saponins. These directly improve how your cells respond to insulin, not by changing the receptor, but by improving the internal signaling chain that follows when the receptor's activated. Your cell hears the insulin signal more clearly, and it responds more completely. Pair it with Ceylon cinnamon, and you layer receptor sensitivity on top of everything fenugreek already brings. These two work together. Half a teaspoon of fenugreek powder in warm water with Ceylon cinnamon. Give it 2 weeks before you judge it. Number 3, dandelion root tea. I mentioned earlier that hepatic glucose overproduction, your liver releasing too much glucose overnight, is one of the primary drivers of elevated fasting numbers. It accounts for the majority of the problem in many of my patients. So directly supporting liver function overnight is one of the highest priority interventions on this entire list. Dandelion root works directly on the liver. It stimulates bile production, and when bile flow improves, your liver's metabolic efficiency improves with it. It processes glucose more cleanly, stores it more precisely, releases it in more controlled amounts through the night. Dandelion root also contains anti-inflammatory compounds that reduce inflammation in the liver tissue itself. And that inflammation, which is extremely common in people who've been managing insulin resistance for years, is one of the primary reasons the liver loses its regulatory precision in the first place. Source quality matters enormously here. Fresh dandelion root is best. Good quality dried loose leaf root tea is next. Prepackaged tea bags that have been sitting in a warehouse for months. Minimal active compounds, minimal effect. 1 cup, 30 to 40 minutes before bed. If you're on any medication affecting your liver, check with your doctor first. Number 2, magnesium water. Magnesium is the most clinically underappreciated mineral in metabolic health. And I say that as someone who's practiced endocrinology for 30 years. Here's what most people don't know. Insulin cannot complete its signaling process inside your cells without magnesium. It acts as a necessary cofactor, a required partner, in the entire chain of events that follows when insulin binds to a receptor. Without adequate magnesium, insulin resistance is effectively worsened at the cellular level. Regardless of everything else you're doing right, studies consistently show that people with type 2 diabetes have significantly lower magnesium levels than those without. And magnesium supplementation in people with deficiency has shown meaningful improvements in both fasting glucose and insulin sensitivity. Beyond the blood sugar mechanism, magnesium promotes deep slow-wave sleep, the exact stage where insulin sensitivity is restored overnight. Improving sleep through magnesium isn't a side benefit, it feeds directly back into the blood sugar system. Magnesium glycinate powder dissolved in warm water, 30 minutes before bed. The data on this is not subtle. Number 1. Golden milk with black pepper. The most effective nighttime drink for blood sugar support is one most of my patients have already tried, and most of them tried it and felt nothing. I'm going to explain exactly why. Because the reason they felt nothing is also the reason this drink, done correctly, is the most powerful thing on this entire list. The active compound in turmeric is curcumin, and curcumin works on 4 separate systems that are all directly relevant to what's happening in your body overnight. First, curcumin reduces vascular inflammation, the chronic low-level inflammation in your blood vessel walls that stiffens them and impairs insulin delivery. Second, curcumin improves insulin sensitivity at the cellular level by influencing the proteins that process the insulin signal inside the cell. Third, curcumin supports your liver, reducing hepatic inflammation and improving the liver's ability to store and release glucose with precision overnight. Fourth, curcumin supports gut lining integrity, which reduces the flow of inflammatory compounds into your bloodstream that worsen insulin resistance. 4 mechanisms, 1 compound, nothing else on this list touches all 4 at once. Now, why did your golden milk do nothing? Because of one missing ingredient. Curcumin has almost no bioavailability on its own. When you consume turmeric without black pepper, the curcumin passes through your digestive system largely intact and largely unused. The blood levels that result are minimal, which means all 4 mechanisms I just described essentially not happening. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine, and piperine inhibits the specific enzyme in your gut that breaks down curcumin before it can be absorbed. When piperine is present, curcumin absorption increases by up to 2,000%, not 20%, not 200%, 2,000. That gap between turmeric with black pepper and turmeric without it is the difference between a drink that genuinely works and a drink that tastes pleasant but does almost nothing for your blood sugar. And yet most people who make golden milk at home leave the black pepper out because nobody told them why it was essential. Now you know, 1 small pinch of freshly ground black pepper, that is the entire difference. The recipe: half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, 1 small pinch of freshly ground black pepper. This is not optional. Half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, 1 cup of warm milk or oat milk, a very small amount of honey only if you need it. Stir well. Drink it warm 30 minutes before bed. That's the complete formula. Most of you already have these ingredients or can find them in 5 minutes. The black pepper is the step almost everyone skips. Now you know exactly why you can't. Here's what I want you to do. Pick 1 drink from this list. I'd suggest starting with golden milk, done correctly, and commit to it for 30 nights, same time every night, no weekends off. Pay attention to 3 things when you wake up: how quickly your thinking comes online, how your legs feel when you stand, whether you're waking in the night less often. Those are the earliest felt signals that your overnight system is starting to work. They show up in the first 2 weeks, before any lab value changes. The nighttime is not passive. It's the most metabolically active period of your day. Everything you feel in the morning is the report card for what happened while you slept. Most of you watching have never had anyone explain that. I'm Dr. Michael Kent. Subscribe, because next day I'm going to show you the 1 nighttime habit that silently raises blood sugar in people who are otherwise doing everything right. Most people have no idea they're doing it. I'll see you then.